What even is there to say? I'm a woman. I'm a woman who feels way too deeply, and I don't know if that's because I have ADHD or if it's just me, my personality. It's probably both. But it can be so tiring. It can be so exhausting, and I don't know if that's because of the generation that I have been born into. God, I'm just so tired. I am just so tired. Earlier today, I was in the bathroom and I thought to myself, if I were a woman in the 18th century, I'd probably have written this poem. It's because sometimes I think so dramatically, I write it into poems. Or I think in poems, but if I would have said that, you would have been like, who do you think you are? I'm Aliyah. That's who I am. Yeah, if I think about how often that's happened to me, I could literally feel like it may feel like I could die of it because it feels so intense. And I've grown to learn over the years that the type of love that you should seek is a warm fire. It's not fireworks. It's a warm bonfire that will keep you warm and steady. But a few sparks is also not enough. And you also need to add your own wood that you've crafted with your own hands to keep the fire, to keep the love going and growing, and to keep it healthy. Make sure that it doesn't explode or die out and diminish in its flame. But I'm just so tired and so exhausted. So here's a few poems. There's something about vulnerability I love, and I feel like I just need to be vulnerable like this with the camera, with you, essentially a stranger, which is crazy to me because next morning when I wake up tomorrow, I'll think, oh, thank God I didn't post that. But deep inside, that's not really how I feel. I want to share vulnerability. I've written things, I've put together projects that I haven't shared for different reasons, but mostly because of fear. You should not be afraid to do things that you really need to do. And I got some news today that made me realize this, that you shouldn't be afraid because you don't know. God help me, you don't know what will happen tomorrow. God forbid how much time you may have on this earth with the people that you love, with the things you want to do. So just go out there and do them, no matter how afraid you are. And also considering the state that our world is in. If you have the privilege, if you have the chance to pick what you do, choose wisely. Pick what you're afraid of. Pick what you really deeply want. Because everything else, I'm not so sure we'll have that security. I'm not so sure we'll have that privilege much longer in the future. So do it now. And do it quick. Before it's too late. So I want to read you a little poem that explains what it feels like for me to try and trust a man again. To try and trust men or love again. Where you feel like you always take one step further towards the person, but they never would because they are able to acknowledge and treat you like the stranger that you are. But for me, if I have interest in someone, I treat them as a person that I'm interested in and that I am willing to not sacrifice for, because you're not, who the hell even are you, but someone I'm willing to create time for. I took a step toward you onto a bridge I know nothing of its quality or state of. I stood there waiting in the middle of a shaking bridge, waiting. As I walked back onto my shore of safety, I heard your faint voice calling. The walk back to me seemed longer than normal, my face slightly turned back to you. I only would listen once I returned to my shore. insulted by your treatment, the wait for your words, and I decided I'd not step onto the middle myself again. I could only meet you there. Torn between risking myself to ghosting or rejection, naked with bare vulnerability, and staying in control, awaiting my inner fire for you to respond and show first. And this is the exact struggle I'm talking about. Where it just feels like you're always the one to fall first, the one to want so deeply first. Really feeding that wound of, I was never that person. Was I not good enough for you to stay? Was I not good enough for you to want me? It goes back to that. It always goes back to something. God help me, I may be a writer, but I'm not a paid paralegal. I wanted to paint, when you have the creative vision but not the creative skill. This is me. I wanted to have a drawing here for writing I did before that of a woman just laying there a bit sad on the ground, sort of exhausted, So here's the poem. It is the deepest of desires to be loved, to love, and the very deepest of fears to lose control, to have none at all anymore, which tear me apart. For when I love recklessly, and it be an understatement to say that I've loved the wrong person, especially the wrong man. One that complements my roller coaster nervous system instead of actually soothing it with ice, to take the pain, warming it with healthy soil, and plant an indestructible ancient type of tree under which we sat in a past lifetime, curled up in each other's arms, spirits dancing, watering it with the silver, soul-bound love, perpetuating as endless iron. For I've given my heart to the type which makes my fire boil, vapes, consumes all my sense of security into what we've titled love. The very behavior I've witnessed, thus attracted, and learned to condemn. So yes, to say it tears me apart were an understatement. To say the least, I'm at knife point, for who could ever work through that with me? This very perfectly describes this inner battle you can be in between I'm just gonna surrender to my feelings, I'm gonna surrender to the unknown of this situation. I think what is the hardest is surrendering to the unknown of not knowing if that person may feel the same as quickly or as deeply as you, versus protecting yourself. But let me tell you something. You can protect yourself in this life all you want. It could perhaps prevent the greatest things from happening to you. So make sure that you're willing to take those risks every now and then. Don't be too afraid to get hurt, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much you know it may hurt. Because the moment you let into fear and you allow yourself to be afraid, you'll stop living. You'll essentially stop living. So be sure to go out there and really live your life. Don't be afraid. And don't be afraid of love. I know it's exhausting, and I'm getting hopeful now as I'm saying this because I've been feeling so exhausted recently. I think the hardest part is not taking it all too seriously. For me, that is taking experience, but when you do like someone, it's almost impossible not to care. Take it as it comes. It's sometimes also situation bound, but don't ever be afraid. Take the risks and live. Live. live.